when I had to make change. KSCO Santa Cruz. KSCO Santa Cruz.
Yeah, hi, this is Dr. Doduro. I'm waiting for to be added on. Dr. Matt Doduro.
How do I hear him? Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum with McCollum Wellness Radio. I've got an amazing show lined up today. I have a really good friend of mine, Dr. Matt Doduro here. We've had 2 or 3 shows together talking about the stem cell machine and how amazing it is. And we're really, Matt's back from the International Convention. He's got a lot of great information. So, hey, Matt, how are you doing today?
Good. Can you hear me okay, Duncan?
Yeah.
Excellent. Dr. McCollum, such a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. You know, we met a couple years ago, basically because I couldn't even adjust anybody anymore. My shoulder was so messed up and I tried everything. And through our mutual friend, Dr. Dan Pompa, you know, I connected up with you and the world's been changed from that moment. So just so we can get the audience kind of grooved in here, I mean, they've heard me talk about the stem cell machine, the Softwave technology machine so many times, and we've done 2 or 3 shows, but why don't you go ahead and give us some of the new stuff? You know, what is the Softwave tissue regenerative technology and where did it come about and what can you tell us about it?
Well, first off, I want to thank you because you are the first in California to have this technology back in, I believe it was September 7th of 2019. So
wow.
We're approaching 2 years. And, you know, it's just like, hey, it starts with one. And you and Dr. Pompa were those first 2. And, you know, then we had 17 of your fellow platinum members through Dr. Pompa's healthcare centers of the future. So it was pretty exciting that that you guys were like the pioneers in this.
Yeah, it was really cool. And, you know, it's so much fun to have, to hear all the stories from all of Dr. Pompa's group, you know, the platinums, the, you know, the cellular healing people, that we were able to come up with something that accelerated our body's own ability to heal itself, you know, the innate intelligence. And this machine is unbelievable. So tell us, what is the Softwave technology? And
and I'll also tell you a little bit about myself in how I found it. But first off, this is genuine lithotripsy. It is the same technology they've used over the last 40 years to break up kidney stones, biliary stones, and even salivary stones. So they use electrohydraulically produced supersonic sound waves that are traveling 3,355 miles an hour. And for some of our viewers, we're actually doing a Facebook Live so they can see one of the screens we're sharing. So those supersonic sound waves can travel the depth of a soup can or a can of water into the body. And the cool thing is they create what's called mechanotransduction. And I know that's a big word, but basically on a cellular level, they're compressing the cell membrane and expanding it. And that creates a shearing force, right, from these supersonic sound waves that knock away, break up scar tissue, oxidative agents and stressors, and they help improve cell membrane permeability. And that's the big factor. And I'm going to go back to like 10th grade biology class, because what that means is you get nutrients into that cell and waste products out, and it makes the cell healthier. Wow. So that's why we've sold this to over a dozen anti-aging and longevity clinics over the last few years, as well as now some of these top CEOs of these Fortune 500 companies, as they find out about this, they want it too.
Yeah.
So, it's really a great movement. And I think this is the third time I've been a guest on your radio show as well
I
in the
think
last
at
2
least
years.
3. I want to ask you again. So you're saying that it's a sound wave that's produced and it travels through water. So and the sound comes like a lightning bolt or lightning thunderclap.
It's like a lightning bolt and thunder, right? Put into a handheld applicator that you can actually place at the human body and get a positive biological effect. So, so what we found over the last few years, and a lot of this was hypothetical 10 years ago. And some of our early researchers, like Dr. Johannes Hofeld, who's a cardiac surgeon, and I'm going to get into some of his amazing research next. But we're finding that it activates our own innate immune receptors. It's our own innate immune response. And so that's like anytime your body has a foreign antigen or a foreign invader that comes in, your body's immune system is awakened and said, hey, red flags, we've got intruders, like the SS Enterprise back on Star Trek.
Exactly.
And so that force field around that Star Trek Enterprise is really our immune system. And the healthier you are, the stronger that is from outside agents. And so this device now, there's multiple studies that show that it helps improve our body's natural immunity and the reaction system. And I'm going to go in depth. I'm going to come down a little bit to talk to our average patient out there, but also our providers that are listening. And
so I'm going to stop you every now and then just for clarification. So you're talking about the cell wall, and this is the sound wave's ability, which is a natural sound, to actually go into the cell and out of the cell. And we know that one of the biggest problems in our health, in our country, where we're rated 47th in the world for health, like 60% of us are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and that's all because of the cell wall's inability to be permeable, and because of the toxins in the cell wall. So the Softwave machine is actually bypassing, and it's got enough power to do something that our bodies have not been able to do, to overcome the 27 trillion pounds of toxins dumped into the environment every year. So it's pretty remarkable. And so I'm going to let you go ahead, but I want to throw in a couple thoughts.
Yeah, stop me if I'm, talking too much like a researcher. But so what it really does is, in layman's simple terms, it tricks the body into thinking there's a new injury without causing damage to the cells or tissue. So we have 24 papers now, half animal, half human, that show that within 45 minutes of this treatment, you have this migration of your body's stem cells, which are the repairmen of the body, to start coming to this area. And that's really cool, because there's nothing really like that in the world. And so what we found is that this helps accelerate the body's natural healing ability. I'll get into some of our patents and some of our research, and we have to talk about the spinal cord injury study that's going on right now in Austria. It's 2 years into it, but this is really, I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Wolfgang Schaden, who is the health director of the Austrian workers' comp system, and he's responsible for 5 million workers in his country. And he loves it so much that he's placed this in 13 trauma centers around Austria.
Wow.
So he looks at things like, and we talked while I was at this international research symposium, and he agreed with me. He said, you know what, in 2 or 3 years, we're going to look at cortisone as being barbaric, because there's 33 side effects. Mm-hmm. And we've used it for over 50 years. And when we were growing up, you could get a cortisone injection one time.
Yeah.
Or one time, or 3 times in your life.
Yeah, 3 times in an area.
And now they allow you to get it 3 times in a year. and things are a little different. So, let's face it, man, we're in the middle of a pandemic, yes, but in actuality, we're still going through the worst opioid epidemic in our country's history, and we're still losing 167 people per day are dying across our country. And they estimate 61,000 people died from prescription drug overdoses. And let's face it, our community is sick and tired of taking drugs, having unnecessary injections, joint replacements, surgeries. They want something natural. They want to extend their body's healing ability as much as they can. And there's a ton of these biohackers out there. Can you tell them what biohackers are? Dr. Duncan?
Biohackers would be, well, there's the people that are promoting it, but there are also different things that actually can bypass or jump ahead of the body's ability to heal and or kind of sidestep some of the blockages that we've had. So when you biohack, it means bio means life, and hack means, get in the way or change what's going on. I'll just say, with diabetes, 60% of us are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Biohacking would be to go in and clean up the cell wall so that the body can heal itself. The body doesn't have the capability with the 78,000 toxins in the environment to do that anymore. We need to jumpstart it. I mean, we're rated 47th in the world for health. We're incredibly sick. So that's, the biohacking is really cool. I think, go ahead.
This is Dr. Wolfgang Schaden right here, and this is in Vienna, Austria, at the 23rd World Congress of International Society for Medical Shockwave Treatment. Wow. So that's MTS and Softwave. That's our partner company in Germany, and they are the ones who assemble and have developed this amazing technology. So it was just it's amazing. Here's some of the technology so that you can see in action how this works, but it literally, this is showing the depth into the spine and how these supersonic sound waves can penetrate right to the spinal cord.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's it. So
and just so anybody listening knows that this will be posted on Duncan McCollum YouTube, and I'm sure Matt will have it posted too. So some of you can't see what we're doing because this is radio, but we will have the video up so you can actually see some of these remarkable things that Matt's showing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the thing we say, your body's ability to heal is greater than anyone ever has permitted us to believe, Exactly. So yeah. And again, the beautiful thing about this is that we're seeing this have basically wherever we place this device on the human body, we see a positive biological effect. So just 2 years ago, even before I was on your show, within the last 2 years, we've gotten FDA clearance as a Class 2 device for activation of connective tissue, wounds, and burns. We're also registered as a Class 1 as a 510K device to help decrease pain and improve circulation. So those are important to understand as well.
And you know what? I've used this machine for over 2 years now, and we were talking before the show, and I was saying, as a chiropractor, I've been in practice almost 35 years and treated thousands and thousands and thousands of spines and done over 1 million adjustments. And we realize that when we do an adjustment, one adjustment on the spinal, and we free up the body's innate intelligence, there's only 31 spinal nerves. They go to 75 trillion cells. So when you adjust one of those 31 spinal nerves, you're affecting a huge portion of those 75 trillion cells. And so often I have to remind myself and the other doctors in my office, one adjustment, don't take it for granted. We do one adjustment, we're freeing up the body's innate. It's a miracle every time we adjust the body. And what's funny about working with this machine now for over 2 years, it's kind of the same thing. I just expect the results, and I just have to remind myself of the miracle of life and the miracle that this machine is because of what it's doing to bring about healing I've never seen before, because we've never had this technology.
Yeah, and it again, they
Wait,
found
Matt,
out
I
about.
can't hear you for some reason. Is
Oh,
Matt
sorry
through?
about that.
There you
Yeah,
go.
no,
There you go. Okay.
we found about this somewhat serendipitously, and because they used to use this to break up kidney stones.
Right.
And then 30 years ago, one doctor, and they actually showed some of the stuff today, or at the seminar, but they literally were like, let's put it on my ankle and my foot because I twisted it, and they found that when they turned the energy down, that they actually elicited this positive biological effect and decreased inflammation. We're going to get to that a little deeper, but I do believe inflammation is really the silent killer. And
of course, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Right. So if you can modulate inflammation, and let's face it, for the last 50 years, this is the holy grail for pharmacology. Pharmaceutical companies wanted to find a drug that can decrease this inflammation. And the closest thing we've seen in our lifetime is, do you remember when Vioxx came out?
Yeah, I do. It was not a good thing at the end, was it?
No, that's right. So Merck was the drug company that made it, and the first few years it was on the market, my patients, they felt like it was called the cure for arthritis.
Yeah.
And I remember one guy had said to him, I said, Bill, how's your knee? And he goes, oh, it's great. I'm taking this new drug. I'm like, oh, what is it? And he's like, Vioxx. And I'm like, how long do you have to be on it? He goes, forever. And I said, oh my gosh, Bill, understand that if you give a person a drug every day for the rest of their life, guess what happens?
Yeah.
You're going to pollute that body. You're going to make it toxic. So what happened was, over the next 5 to 7 years it was on the market, 27,000 people died from being on Vioxx. It was a COX-2 inhibitor. That's right. And it thickened the blood, and it caused gastrointestinal bleeding. And there was a lot more strokes, heart attacks, and obviously it was pulled off the market because they ended up paying out almost $4.8 billion in death claims. So, but again, that was a $5 billion drug. It had a good effect on decreasing inflammation, but it had a negative, basically systemic effect. This device is opposite. If we put this on our elbow, say for golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, and there's people listening right now that are living in pain, plantar fasciitis, knee pain. I've never seen anything that was worked so well for knee, bone on bone.
How many people, Matt, let me ask you, how many people come into your doctor's offices saying my knees are bone on bone? I take x-rays and they're not. I mean, maybe it's 20-25% are bone on bone. The others, there's a meniscus in there, like, half there. I go, you're not bone on bone.
If it was true bone on, if it was true bone on bone, they would not be bending and walking on that knee. It would be so painful. Yeah. So
I want to take a real quick second, because we're about 20 minutes into the show, and this is McCollum Wellness Radio. As you know, I'm here every Saturday from 1 to 2. And listen, we do have one machine. We had the first one in California. My number is 403. I have the 403, which is kind of cool. It sounds like a train. But we have a $49 special to get this thing, to check it out. If you don't want to do it for yourself, hey, get your Christmas shopping done. Come buy these things. We have people come from Reno, from Fresno, all over to get these, because there are just not very many in the country. So that's my commercial. Call McCollum Family Chiropractic, 831-459-9990, and come in and see it. See if we can help you.
Yeah, listen, there's only 850 in the entire world. We've now placed 400 in the United States. So it's obviously catching on. And I want to get back to that, that Vioxx story, because what happens with us is, like, we can point this device with the handheld applicator, say we're doing the bottom of the feet for foot pain, and we're helping decrease that inflammation, we're helping decrease the pain, we're helping improve circulation, but we're also, so that's a local effect, positive, but then we're creating this systemic effect where the body is calling out and sending signals for these stem cells and repairmen to that injured area. And really it helps reset that whole cascade of regenerative healing. And our name of our company is Softwave Tissue Regeneration Technologies. And the coolest thing that's happened over the last 2 years is that we're up for the Edison Award. So if you guys remember, Thomas Edison he had thousands of patents, and he came up with the light bulb, but he has a foundation, and right now Softwave is up for the 2021 Medical Device of the Year. And so one of the cool things is they were evaluating our stuff, and we were showing them the research. They're like, this signaling part, with the way that you're able to help other cells communicate, that's almost like a biotech company. And the fact that you can actually point this device and decrease pain, decrease inflammation, but also create that whole cascade of regenerative helper cells and stem cells coming to that treated area. That's a really cool thing that we're flipping on a switch within the body to really accelerate the body's natural healing process.
Yeah, and when we first, I mean, again, I got this thing, I'm a clinician, I haven't been studying all of the research coming out, I've just been working and helping people. We knew at the beginning that it would pull stem cells from wherever they are lying in the bones of the body dormant and bring them to the area. We also know that blood capillaries was developing new capillaries. And we understood that it was reducing pain because it was taking the inflammation out. But when you were talking the other day, some of the research that you guys that's been brought about the what is it, you were talking, you gave a name to it today, what the superstar or the
superhero. So I'll tell you about that with that research in a minute. But what's triggering all this is this, they call it like the superhero gene within our body. It is an innate immune receptor called TLR3, toll-like receptor 3. And that is so important because that gene, that's like a Superman gene, is so important in the whole cascade of its increasing circulation, right? That's called angiogenesis, improving the blood supply. It's actually new blood pathways. So within 10 to 12 weeks, there is literally new blood vessels. So that's the number one thing it does: decreases inflammation, decreases pain. That mechanotransduction that compresses the cell and expands the cell is literally shedding exosomes and messenger RNAs, which are important. These little vesicles are like little boats that go and communicate to the cells, and then that's how you get the migration of the body's repairmen and stem cells coming to that area. But also it's responsible for that regenerative process. So the perfect example, Dr. Schaden talked about he was a trauma surgeon at one of the ERs in Vienna, and this guy came in with a broken leg, lower limb, and they had to put it together. He was in a motorcycle accident. They had to pin it together, but there was a wound there, right? It was a compound fracture. So the bone wasn't healing. The metal screws and plates were not staying in. So they started using the Softwave device right on the bone. And what they noticed was in 3 or 4 visits, all of a sudden the bones start healing. So this actually creates what's called osteogenesis, which is the bone starts getting stronger. And then they realized that where the wound was, that tissue started remodeling and started healing over that. So that's how, 10 years ago, we realized, hey, not only is this helping the bone get better, but it's also helping the tissue. And again, when that wound was healed, there's the beautiful endpoint in healing. That scab doesn't fall off. Yeah. That new tissue that healed over that wound was real. Right now, I have a picture up because Kevin Durant, who was out in the Bay Area for years, he tore his Achilles a couple of years ago. And he flew from the Bay Area to New York City to work with Dr. Martin O'Malley. Now, Dr.
Wow.
Martin O'Malley, we've talked about in previous shows, but he's had one of our devices for 10 years. He's a foot and ankle specialist to the NBA. He's helped us get us into the LA Lakers, New York Knicks, New York Nets, and now the Memphis Grizzlies.
Wow.
And
They all have their own machines.
They all have their own machines. Plus, Dr. O'Malley works with hundreds of NBA players and NFL players, anybody that has a bad ankle, foot, heel, torn Achilles, they go see him. And he said,
so what other pro teams? I mean, it seems like football, baseball, all these guys should be getting this, but I know sometimes it's slow to open up. But what's going on?
I'll show you. I've got some pictures where we've placed them in the last month, and it's really exciting. But in short, Dr. Martin O'Malley said using this device is one of our most commonly employed biological treatment modalities, and it's well tolerated and shows marked improved clinical outcomes compared to other modalities. And Dr. O'Malley's team is the one that showed that this is 65 to 90% success rate.
Wow.
And
yeah, that's amazing.
And then the other thing that he says is this is a proven modality in orthopedic, and he loves it because he makes a great claim. Not all shock waves are created equally. There are these these cheaper versions. I mean, these are $100,000 devices. This is an investment you made in your community, Doc. And that was the one thing I always said. You were the first guy on the West Coast, and you were an innovator. And I said, thank you for investing in your community, because 2 years later, we see the real impact that we're making by people not having to take opioids or narcotics or have a surgery or have injections. So that's the real, that's the eternal impact that we're going to make on this planet with this device, is helping millions of people. Hold on one second. Helping millions of people end their pain and suffering through natural technology.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, what we're doing is we're giving people their life back. I mean, the ability to bend down and pick up your kids or your grandkids, or take your dog. Hey, there's my machine right there. Take your kids
the
for a walk.
OrthoGold, yeah.
And it was really interesting. I got a call from my sister-in-law just this morning she has some hip problems, and she's being recommended to two different machines, not ours. That's why she called me, and she sent me pictures of them. And one was the one that you showed on that last video I saw, the little teeny head that was causing I knew injuries to the area. And then somebody said, oh yeah, we were buying these things for like $4,000 to use in our house. And I'm going, it's not the same thing.
That's right. Those are little radial devices that they're actually not even considered genuine lithotripsy anymore, according to the International Shockwave Symposium. So remember, ours are genuine lithotripsies. They're producing supersonic waves, and the other ones are not. So pretty cool. So Dr. Johannes Hofeld, who is a thoracic surgeon, and his team, this is part of his team, they when they do open heart surgeries, 31% of the time, there is the blood supply is actually stenosed.
Yeah,
it's called stenosis, and they don't get blood supply to the spine, and 31% of the people become paralyzed. Wow. And so they've used this on a couple times. This is the spinal cord. So I'm showing some visuals for people, but when that lack of blood supply happens, then you get scar tissue, you get loss of function, and you get damage to the neuro tissue. And this triggers that whole innate immune response. And they started soft waving that injury 2 or 3 segments above and 2 or 3 segments below where they had lost the blood supply. And they saw this beautiful cascade effect that, after any injury, you have these dangerous molecules that are released, right? After the injury, they're called cytokines and things like that.
Right.
But with the Softwave technology, it triggers that innate immune responder, that toll-like receptor 3, and that's what decreases it. It's like the Superman of genes. Yeah. And it decreased inflammation. It shows that it has neuroprotective components of that spinal cord. and it could stop the loss of, inhibit apoptosis, which, Doc, is death of the cell and the neuro tissue. So they had a 2-hour to 8-day window to get to these patients. And it showed that it decreased the size of scar tissue. There was less necrosis and less neural loss of function. So that was really cool. And this innate immune responder is initiated by anytime there's any foreign antigens in there. So it's good to know that. And the researchers in this project really hypothesized that Softwave therapy would stimulate that very specific innate immune receptor, and they wanted to isolate it. So they looked at when they put an antagonist in there on that toll-like receptor or block that toll-like receptor, none of those 4 or 5 things happened. And what's really cool is they actually took a CRISPR scissor, these genetic engineers, and they cut out that toll-like receptor out of that double helix. And when they cut out that toll-like receptor gene, there was no regeneration whatsoever. So this toll-like receptor 3 may be a superhero gene that we're just starting to really isolate and document.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, this is all, a lot of heady stuff, but the proof is in the pudding. I mean, I tell people, look, come try the thing for $49 and see if we waste $49 pretty easily these days, but we have the machine in our office, and I'm telling my patients, buy a coupon for your, for your family. We got the $49 thing, might change their life. And it's changed mine. In fact, let's talk about for a minute about Daniel Pompa, the kid, or Dan Pompa's son, jumped off of a 60-foot cliff and missed the water and fractured 3 vertebrae in his mid-back.
He fractured T9, T10, and broke 2 ribs, both ankles. It was a terrible, terrible.
Probably his coccyx too, because I remember seeing the pictures of how bad that was. And that's about the time I couldn't lift my arm. I had hurt my arm so bad I could barely practice. I had to adjust everybody left-handed. But you got actually you met Danny. He came to your practice a year before, right? With his girlfriend.
Right. That's how. Yep, that's right. That was our goddaughter that they were traveling down through Argentina. They were in South America. Yeah, and they were backpacking. They came back, and that's how. They were all sore from backpacking for a month, and I was adjusting him, and his neck was a little tight. This is before his injury. I shockwaved Daniel, and with the Softwave device, and he came back, and he basically FaceTimed his dad right there and said, "Hey, Dad, you got to see this." That's episode 12 of My Free My Pain Now, a podcast, where we document that whole story and interview Daniel. And Dr. Dan Pompa's been our guest on our podcast a couple of times, as I know he's been on yours. But so the spinal cord injury study is amazing because for the last 2 years, the Austrian government has created a national health mandate that basically any injured person, any spinal cord injury, will get this treatment within 72 hours.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's pretty cool. So they're doing it right on the spine, right on the injury. And they know that if a hematoma develops and cuts off that blood supply or cuts off that nerve flow, or it really, that's what creates the permanent damage. The spinal cord cannot regenerate at this time, right? In our lifetime, we've always heard that. But I'll show you some studies in a minute that show that they're doing this on zebrafish right now, that they're actually getting regeneration. So really exciting research. This is Dr. Hirsch, and he they talk about cardiac issues are still the #1 killer of people on this planet. And you basically first have a heart attack, then you develop scar tissue, and then you get congestive heart failure, and then you need a heart pump, an external heart pump, and then you either get a heart transplant or you die. This little heart transplant, it's called a left ventricular assist device. There's an internal lead that goes to that left ventricle, And here at Piedmont Hospital, they've taken care of 4 patients who've got an infection there. And this device, our technology, has an antimicrobial and antibacterial effect. So they're using it right on that internal lead, which is really cool. But there has been nothing, in the forms of cardiac regeneration. It just is not there. And researchers are now extremely happy when they saw that the Softwave therapy could actually regenerate cardiac muscle in mice. And so that is really groundbreaking studies right there. And Dr. Johannes Holfeld is the lead on this. He has now he's now treated as a cardiac surgeon 57 bypass patients, and then he takes our patented technology and he does it right over the cardiac muscle.
Wow, that is amazing.
They're showing 11% improvement in left ventricular ejection fraction, and it's never been seen.
Yeah, ventricular, that's the one that's we need that really hard pump. That's the highest part of your blood pressure that pushes the blood all the way around your body, down to your toes, through the capillaries. Like, the blood passes through our body 4 times a minute. And that muscle, if it's not strong enough, it will get stagnant and you start to lose oxygen to the cells, and a lot of bad things happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's necrosis. That's death of tissue. If they're not getting that oxygen-rich blood to the furthest, most distal part of their toes and feet, that's diabetic neuropathy. That's what I've done for the last 11 years. That's where all of our research has been done. And that's one of the reasons why I brought this into my clinic 5 years ago, is because we take care of chemo, diabetic, and peripheral neuropathy patients. And so, we have a patent pending that we should know any day, hopefully before the end of the year. We're keeping our fingers crossed, but they show that we show that this technology actually doubles and improves the sensory nerve function in our patients that utilize this for their diabetic and peripheral neuropathy. So,
wow. I want to comment on that, because we've had a lot of success with the peripheral neuropathy. And, I told you kind of what I see happening as far as our patients. I mean, there's nothing that's 100%. I mean, a lot of times there's other things involved when we're not getting the results. Like you said, 60 to 90% a while ago. I find that oftentimes there's other things that we need to look at, but it's remarkable the amount of people that we get results on with this machine. With, it's almost like, well, let's try it on this, and then darn if it doesn't work. So where are we going? It's like, we said the first time we were on the show, I said it's like Bones is, and you have the right name for it. It's Star Trek, where he just ran that thing over somebody's injury and they got healed. It's just like, I'm amazed at what we see going on with this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was really excited about Dr. Holfeld's research when I got involved in this 5 years ago, but a lot of it was hypothetical. Dr. Holfeld has been actually taking it from molecule to man, we call it in research, and basically from a hypothesis to proving. And he's coming on board with Southern Methodist University. That's where the DeBanke heart pump was developed, and he will literally be bringing this technology to the States over the next couple of years. We do not have FDA clearance yet for it, but we're super excited that to be able to use this technology and improve cardiac regeneration tissue, which is like the closest thing we've ever seen. I think they did $35,000 worth of stem cells, injecting it into the heart and the left ventricle, and they only got a 4% left ventricular ejection improvement. This is nearly triple. It's 11%. So it's groundbreaking studies, and super excited to see what's happening out there. Now, I just want to make a kind of a disclaimer per se, because there is no cure for diabetic neuropathy. Okay, and it's like diabetes. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disease, and you want to make sure you find the most efficient and effective tools to utilize and improve that nerve function. And let's face it, even though it's a nerve issue, it really is an underlying blood flow issue. And,
Yeah.
and I believe we've been lucky enough to kind of prove that over the last few years. I'm just looking to see if I have a couple more. Okay. So you said who do we have this technology? What are some of the professional teams? 2 weeks ago, we placed this in the Dallas Cowboys.
Nice.
This is Jim Maurer. He's the head trainer. He's been with the Dallas Cowboys since 1986. They specifically brought us in to see if we could help with Dak Prescott. Remember, he broke his leg last year, and he still has this underlying deep muscle pain. So super excited to have those gentlemen there. And let me see who else we got. Oh, this is a beautiful picture. This is an MRI of the of a non-healing fracture, the talus bone in an adult woman. And
ankle.
She was supposed to, in the ankle, and she was supposed to have that joint replaced.
Yeah.
And Dr. Mullins, who's an amazing surgeon, he shockwave it.
Wow.
Over, I think he did three sessions over 4 weeks. And then seeing this bottom one, it's totally healed. And she avoided that joint replacement. And there's that picture of that healed post. So that's the stuff we're seeing now. And
it's amazing. And, just to remind everybody, we will have this out on my website, on my YouTube channel. I'll put it out on Facebook. My YouTube channel is Duncan McCollum. Well, how about with you, Matt? Where can they find you?
Free My Pain Now is my YouTube channel, but also it's my Facebook page. So Dr. James Bradley, we've been lucky enough to have this with the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last 16, 17 months.
Wow.
Dr. Bradley has been the team physician for the Steelers for 30 years. He calls this his secret weapon to get his players back on the field faster. He's seen it all. He, dry needling, ultrasound, cold laser. He says nothing helps speed his patient's recovery. This is Olympic hopeful Laura Rossler and also Olympic athlete Graham McDowell. He is the PGA champion from about 10 years ago. He's one of the top 50 golfers in the world. And he's been using this for over a year as well. So really, there also the New York, the Chicago Cubs and Cleveland Indians. And I think we told you how they use this from a preventative standpoint, which is pretty cool. They screen their players and they don't even let them get an injury.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's amazing. This thing can find, now when people come in and get a treatment, I mean, what do you expect? You're gonna feel, something over the area if there's scar tissue or there's damaged tissue. The sound, 3,358 miles an hour, goes right through healthy tissue, but it stops on scar tissue and you feel it. And can be uncomfortable, but everybody goes, that's it. No, go back to that. That's exactly the spot.
That's it. And by the way, one of your patients came up with this tagline that I love. You have to feel it to heal it. You remember this?
Yes, I do.
And that's because if you run this over normal tissue, there's no pain. But as soon as you come across areas of inflammation, poor circulation, arthritis, or a torn ligament or tendon, there's this biofeedback component where the patient is able to say right there. And it's funny, now I've trained over 400 clinics across the country, and everybody around the country has a different way of saying it. Like, it's like people in Texas are like, rat cheer. And up in Ohio, they're like, oh boy. And around Chicago, they're like, holy cow. So it's kind of funny how this device works. And the beautiful thing is, we're seeing this, we've been able to scale this, Dr. McCollum, and close to 400 clinics now actively having this, but we're getting predictable patient outcomes as well as reproducible timeframes. So the concept that we came up with, that you and Dr. Scott Kramer helped me come up with, is less is more.
Yeah. And
we were actually, this powerful intelligent energy, we microdosed it. And we put it in small little portions, and we let the body react to it. And really what we were doing was activating that innate immune system to heal faster.
Yeah.
Before we're done, I want to show you, this is one of our colleagues in Colombia. At this international symposium, there was over 180 doctors from all over the world. And they
Wow.
were trauma surgeons, orthopedists, neurologists, cardiologists, urologists. And
Wow.
Dr. Carlos Leal from Colombia, this is one of his friends who jumped off a boat into a shallow area and broke his neck.
Yeah, I see that.
Right down here at C5, C6. And
Yeah.
you can see then that's Dr. Carlos Leal, and he's doing testing on him just 3 weeks after the injury. And, you know, he had lost a lot of neural function. And so this is them using the technology, and they're retesting him here. This is 5 weeks after. He's getting a little better, but that whole
Wow.
time they were utilizing Softwave and Shockwave. You can see them. This is he's trying to walk on the beach now. He's got a little help. He's doing really good. That's 20
He's
weeks
looking pretty
after.
good there. Yeah.
And then this is 32 weeks after. You can see how much his strength has come back.
Yeah.
They're really testing it. And then you can see the actual differences side by side. This is
Oh my God.
8 months
Look at him
after he was running.
running.
So this is our technology. He has in Colombia, they use the focus probe, which is a little stronger.
Uh-huh.
But that spinal cord injury study in Austria is showing that when they've done this, over the last 2 years, they've had 50% less paralysis when compared to the previous 18 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a 50% less.
50%, and they've got 4 more years on the study. But,
Wow.
you know, it's really, really cool. I think I showed you this one, but this is just the power of the software.
I want people to be able to watch this show. We've got 7 minutes left. So, you know, we got a lot of territory we've gone over. Anything that you would like to highlight again, and or, you know, really get bring them up to, you know, what they can expect. You know, again, there is no 100% cure for anything, but heck, if you try it and it improves your life and keeps you away from more radical, holy moly, more radical surgeries and drugs, and, you know, it's worth a try just to see if it basically kept me working. I would have had to, I don't know what I would have did if I didn't meet you, Dr. Diderot, and get this thing fixed. And then I had to drive for hours to find a machine.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and that was one of the reasons why you brought it to your community, to make it easier. But the most really exciting part of this is that in 2022, Medicare will start paying for wounds, diabetic ulcers, and possibly burns now. So that's exciting. This is some cases of wounds that we saw. And Dr. Carlo Leal in Colombia is actually working on, you wouldn't believe this, but there's a village with 150 lepers.
Uh-huh.
Leprosy is still a thing.
Yeah.
And he's working with people. He goes every 3 months and works, and he's helping people not get amputations. So that was pretty cool. Finally, I think one of the most exciting thing that's happening is the fact that this technology has now been approved in all of Europe for dementia and Alzheimer's.
Really?
And yeah, and the thing is this: we meet cancer survivors every day, and thank God we've made such a big impact in the survival of these patients. But when's the last time you met an Alzheimer's survivor?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
People die. They don't come back from that. Well, this is a patient, John, out of Sacramento, and that's Dr. Mike Putman, and John is in his 70s. He's a doctor of pharmacology, and he literally was diagnosed with dementia in 2008. By 2011, he lost his license, and it was full-blown Alzheimer's. And the last 2 years, he had lost the ability to communicate. He couldn't bathe himself, couldn't feed himself, clothe himself. And this is after his second session. And, you know, this is down, you can't hear it.
Do you feel that at all?
Yeah, we're watching video here.
What's it feel like?
and they're using it right on his
Right on his forehead.
brain. This was a compassion case. This went, I mean, we filled out all the paperwork. We're actually hoping to get FDA clearance, but they did the back and front, and you know, it's just wonderful. I mean, here's the crazy thing about
By the way, I just want to say that's not in my scope of practice, anybody out there, but if you're, we'll try to find
no,
somebody who can do it.
we're not marketing that. We haven't been cleared in the states yet, so just understand. But you know, this is his wife and how happy she was and what he's been doing, and now he's able to carry on conversation. He sits and, you know, he's walking again. He's,
Wow.
you know, he's becoming, you know, he came out of a shell. So super excited to see where he's at and how he's doing. So that, listen, Dr. Dale Bredesen, he said that that I think they've had 500,000 or 600,000 people have died during this current pandemic in the United States. But of the 330 million people currently alive, 45 million of them will die from dementia or Alzheimer's that are currently alive. And if we don't find something to help, like it's going to be diet, it's going to be nutrition, that ketogenic, that the way you've talked about it for your patients. But if we don't find something to start making a dent in this, this has the ability to bankrupt our world healthcare system. Yeah. So hey, we're excited. 2 minutes
left. You know, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This is great. We've done, I think this is our 4th show actually, but this is great information. And again, Matt Doduro, Dr. Matt Doduro, he's the guy that brought me this machine to begin with. It brought my life back. And, you know, I was the first in California, you said, huh?
Yes, you were. I'm never going to let you, other than the University of California, San Francisco, San Diego, you were the first private clinic. And no one will ever take that away from you, sir. You are in a league of your own. 403. 403. Yeah. And we should tell people that they can go to softwaveproviders.com. Again, we have over 400 clinics across the country. You just happen to be the first in California, and I was one of the first in Georgia. And I can't tell you and thank you enough, Duncan, because you've been such a great ambassador for this technology, and you're doing some wonderful work up there in the Santa Cruz area.
Thank you. And I'm just going to remind you guys, come get your Christmas presents for your friend, $49 special. You got it.
It's a deal. And the beautiful thing is, like, if we can't find those hotspots, you're not a candidate. So that's right. You got to feel it to heal it.
That's right. Okay, well, we're coming down to the wire. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you getting a hold of me, and we'll do this again. All right. Have a great day.
Sir.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. How'd we do? Okay. How'd we do? Perfect.